You know, in this crazy connected world we live in, it's so easy to think of cybersecurity as just building a fortress. Higher walls, stronger gates. But what happens when the bad guy is already inside? Today, we're not going to talk about just prevention. We're talking about something way more important, resilience. The ability to take a punch, get right back up, and actually be stronger for it. So let's dive in and figure out how to build that.
And this right here, this is the fundamental truth you've got to get your head around in modern cybersecurity. That old mindset of just trying to stop every single attack, well, it's just not going to work anymore. The threats are everywhere, and they're getting smarter all the time. So the real question isn't if something will happen, but are you ready for when it does?
All right, so here's our game plan for today. First, we'll face that threat head-on. Then, we'll lay the groundwork for a solid defense. From there, we'll map out the key strategies for responding, shift our thinking from reactive to proactive, and finally, we'll tie it all together to achieve what we call true digital resilience.
Okay, let's kick things off with that all-important mindset shift. And look, this isn't about being paranoid or scared. It's just about being real and being prepared for the world we actually live in.
Think about it this way. When you know a hurricane is coming, you don't just rely on one single sandbag, right? But that's kind of what a prevention-only strategy is like. The game has totally changed. We need to stop thinking about building a simple wall and start thinking about building a machine, a really resilient system where all the parts work together to handle whatever gets thrown at it. So let's move on and see how this system gets built. To create that machine, we've got to have a super strong foundation. I'm talking about the core principles that everything else is going to rest on. And that cornerstone is what we call the CIA triad. And no, not that CIA. This is the 3 fundamental goals of any solid security program. It's basically the North Star for protecting your most valuable information. So just picture a perfectly balanced 3-legged stool. First, you've got confidentiality. That's all about keeping your secrets secret. Then you have integrity, making sure your data is what it's supposed to be, that it's accurate, and hasn't been tampered with. And finally, you've got availability, which just means the right people can get to the information when they need to. If any one of those legs gets weak, the whole thing comes crashing down. Building on top of that foundation, we get to this classic piece of wisdom: know thyself, know thine enemy. It's so true. On one side, you have to look in the mirror. What are our crown jewels? Where are we weak? But then, you also have to look out the window. Who's out there? What do they want from us? And how do they operate? You just can't build an effective defense without understanding both sides of the coin. So, once you spot a risk, what do you actually do about it? Well, you've got 5 main choices. You can actively defend against it, maybe with some new security controls. You could try to transfer the risk, like buying a cyber insurance policy. You could work to mitigate it, to make the impact less severe if it happens. Sometimes you might just have to accept it. And finally, if a risk is just too big to handle, you can terminate the activity that's causing it. The key is that every single risk requires a deliberate choice. Okay, with our foundation firmly in place, now we can start building out our response playbook. This is where all the different teams and all the different plans come together to form one single, powerful strategy. These are the 4 big pillars of any modern response, but I want you to see them not as 4 separate plans, but as 4 layers of the same system. We've got incident response, disaster recovery, business continuity, and crisis management. They each have their own job, but they're all deeply connected. So let's break this down, because this part is absolutely key. It all starts with incident response. That's your technical team, the boots on the ground fighting the fire. Once they get the immediate threat under control, disaster recovery kicks in to get systems and data back online. Now, while that's happening, business continuity is focused on making sure the critical parts of the business can keep running. And watching over all of it, you have crisis management, which handles communications, protects the company's reputation, and takes care of the people involved. See how each one flows right into the next? It's a system. Now, having a playbook is fantastic, but it's not enough on its own. The next big leap is to move from just being reactive, waiting for an alarm to go off, to being proactive, where you are constantly preparing, practicing, and getting better.
And this is the well-known life cycle for incident response. But check this out. It starts with preparation, way before anything happens, and it ends with post-incident activity, or lessons learned. It's a continuous loop, a circle. The goal isn't just to get through an incident. It's to learn from it so that you're even stronger and better prepared for the next time.
So, how do you get better? You practice. It's that simple.
A plan sitting on a shelf or in a shared drive is pretty much useless. It's the realistic, hands-on training that turns that document into a real capability. This isn't about memorizing a checklist. It's about building muscle memory across the whole organization so your team can act decisively when the pressure is really on.
And there are different levels to this kind of training. You can start with something like a tabletop exercise where you just talk through a crisis scenario. Then you can level up to live simulations for some real hands-on practice. And for the ultimate test, you've got red versus blue team contests. That's where your own team of ethical hackers, the red team, tries to break in, while your security team, the blue team, tries to stop them in real time. Each type of drill shows you something different about where you're strong and where you need to improve.
All right, let's zoom all the way out now. All of this amazing technical and operational work has to connect to the very highest levels of the organization. I'm talking about the boardroom.
And honestly, this is often the biggest challenge. The security experts are talking about threats and vulnerabilities and patches, but the board, they're talking about revenue, risk, and long-term strategy. So how in the world do you bridge that gap?
Well, you have to learn to speak their language. It's that simple. Don't just talk about a server that needs a patch. Talk about the financial risk to the entire business if that server gets compromised. Show them a clear return on investment for your security projects. And make it clear that a strong security program isn't just a cost, it's what makes business strategy possible.
And this right here is the ultimate goal. Good security isn't the department of no anymore. When you do it right, a solid security foundation is the very thing that allows the business to innovate, to take smart risks, and to grow with confidence. It becomes a huge competitive advantage.
And all of this leads us right back to our central idea, digital resilience. It is so much more than just surviving an attack. It's the ability to withstand a crisis, to adapt on the fly, and to recover. But here's the most critical part, to learn from it and actually emerge stronger than you were before the crisis hit.
And that's really the key takeaway I want to leave you with. In a world where some level of failure is pretty much guaranteed, the true measure of success isn't having a perfect prevention record, it's having a proven track record of resilience. So the question I have for you isn't just, are you secure? It's, how resilient are you?